Okay, we're off to Jazzville. I'm TC Jones, producer, and I'm sitting here with my co-producer, Geoff Petersen. How you doing?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing good. We've gotten a lot of requests to explain a little bit about the origin of some of our characters. And it's very interesting. We have a couple of different characters, but the one we're going to talk about today is Frenchy. And Frenchy is a character that is the story, a great American story of the South, New Orleans, the birth of a French bulldog that went from a very tough beginning to becoming the leader of the dog pack. So he had a rise in his, and had to do it with his wit and with his cunning and with his friends, mainly his best friend. And so this is a great Americana story. And I'll tell you what, why don't we start off the story with me explaining a little bit about where I got Frenchy from, but let's put some Americana music behind this. So cue Americana music. All right, so here we go. One day I'm sitting on my porch on Lake Lanier, which is in the South as well, looking out and thinking, I'm a little bored. What do I want to do? And so I went to the library and I started looking in our library, which we have extensive books. My sons are avid readers, and there's a bunch of books of Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn by Samuel Clemens, who was known as Mark Twain. And it's all about life on the Mississippi River and the adventures that they got into. And so I'm looking at the library and I see this one book that pops out and it says, Frenchy. I said, Frenchy? Who's Frenchy? Because New Orleans, of course, had a lot of French influence. You knew that, right, Geoff?
Oh, yes.
There's a lot of French influence.
A lot of French influence.
And it's the Cajun capital, it's all that sort of stuff. So anyway, I'm looking at this book and I pull it out of the shelf. And I'm looking at it, and it's talking about life on the Mississippi, but not in the old times of Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, but kind of present time. And it's the story of a French bulldog that started off with the toughest beginning that you could have and ended up being the leader of the dog pack, which was a pack of southern dogs. And so that's what we're here. I'm on I think you asked me a couple of times, well, where'd Frenchy come from? Then did you have a chance to read the book at all?
I have.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was a great read. Very fun.
Yeah.
He's got a good story. I kind of saw, then I was able to see where the inspiration came from and how things are coming together.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we're gonna have this story scored with some of the Meta composers, and the music you're hearing is by composer Mark Berkowitz, and he's writing Americana type music, so you can get an idea about that. So I'm going to go into the story and get you up to the birth of Frenchy. So it started off with Frenchy's dad. Frenchy's dad was not from the South. He was from New York, and he was kind of a tough guy. And he was a French bulldog, but he was really sort of tough. And he would hop the trains with some of the hobos. I think his owner was a hobo, and they would hop the trains. And when they'd hop the trains, they'd be going across the country here and there. And he decided to get off the train with his hobo trainer, his hobo owner, and they were in New Orleans. And so he got a little dose of New Orleans, And what he liked is that the people in New Orleans were great Southern people, very friendly. And
A little crazy.
a little crazy, yeah. I mean, it is the home of voodoo and all that sort of stuff. But
That's great.
But he loved it. And one of the things he loved so much is that the Southern people, they feed you if you look like you're hungry, or it doesn't matter if you're a people or if you're a dog. They feed you, they take care of you, they're welcoming. And so that's what Frenchy's dad liked. And so he found a couple of dogs he liked. I could say bitches. He found a couple of bitches that he liked, and one he liked a lot. And they had a litter. And they had a litter. And so they had a litter, and what happened was the litter was found because, male dogs, they don't really take care of the babies too much. And there was a tragic event, and the mother got picked up, and the litter got picked up with her and taken to a pet store. And the pet store was a place called Bark and Biscuit, and it was run by a couple of gals that were really great Southern belles, and they both were singers. Ellie Mae was a singer, and Bibi, they call her, was also a singer. And Bibi was the owner, and Ellie Mae was the person. So what happened is that they set up the mom and all of the puppies in a whelping box, right? And that's where she would feed the puppies. The mother would feed the puppies and all that sort of stuff. And so Frenchy was one of them. And Frenchy, right from the very beginning, was kind of the dominant puppy. Now, when dogs are born, they're blind. They don't have their eyes open. They don't see anything. And they just demonstrate behavior, but they can't see anything. And it takes a few weeks for them to open their eyes. The very beginning, everything was dark because I didn't have my eyes open. All I knew is that every once in a while I could find this beautiful smelling, great tasting nipple. And I could suck on that, and it was the most great food I could ever get. I just loved it, and that's my first impression of the world. Black, couldn't see anything, and a great tasting nipple. And then I could hear all my other siblings, but I couldn't see them. I realized real quick that there was a lot of them. And so eventually, as the days went by, I had to fight a little bit for my place. You know what I'm talking about, Bestie?
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
You had to fight too, but you had bigger siblings, right?
Bigger siblings and a bigger nipple.
And bigger nipple to nipple. Anyway, so after a couple of weeks, I started to see the light, and I could see my siblings, and it was still comfortable because every day I just would take nice naps, big naps, Southern style naps, and I'd be with my siblings. There's I think 4 or 5 more of us, but I always seemed to be able to nose my way into the best spot on my mama, the best spot, right? So we all grew up pretty fast. And one day I'm just sucking on that beautiful nipple of my mama's, and I hear the bell on the door of the Bark and Biscuit ring. Mm-hmm. And I hear this loudmouth guy coming in, and he's saying some stuff. Now I understand what he said. Then I didn't understand much, but now I understand. He said, "Hey, you got any Frenchies?" And I hear Bibi say, "Well, we got some Frenchies," and then Ella Mae says, "Yeah, that should come and show you," So then The next thing I know is I'm hearing this loudmouth guy, and he's coming around and he's saying, yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. A Frenchy. I want a Frenchy. And Ella Mae, she's just a sweet thing. She says, well, you can't have him yet. You want that one? And I say, yeah, I want that one. That one looks like he's the leader. So before I knew anything about being a leader, I was a leader. And so this guy, I come to find out his name was Mick Stanky. And he lived down on the river in a shed. And he was a crawfish guy. He smelled like fish, And I just remember I'm there sucking away with my siblings down there on my mama. And all of a sudden, he picks me up. And I hear this nipple go pop, and he says, yeah, I want this one. And Ella Mae says, oh, no, you can't have that one because he got to be 10 weeks old. You cannot take a dog at a little puppy. It was only 8 weeks old because they're not ready for that. So he said, okay, and he kind of slammed me down again, and I quit whimpering and went back to my comfy zone. And about some time later, probably 2 weeks or so, I hear the bell ring again on the door, and here comes this guy, loudmouth. I recognize that guy's loudmouth. He says, I'm back. I want my Frenchy. That's what he's saying. I want my Frenchy. He always send my Frenchy, like I'm going to be owned by somebody, right? So the next thing I know, he's grabbing me, and he's got me under his arm, and he's taking me up to the front desk, and he's saying, I want this one. How much? And Ella Mae was by herself, and BB wasn't there, and Ella Mae is a sweet thing, but she didn't know what to do. He was moving so fast. She gave him a price, and he slammed cash down, said, okay, great, here it is, and he left. And Ella Mae was beside herself. She did not know, because I could tell that she really didn't like the idea. So the next thing I know is I'm underneath this smelly crawfish guy, and I'm out going out the door. I hear the bell ring, but now it's on the other side, and he walks to this funky looking truck. It says crawfish on the side, and I hear the door squeak open, and he throw me in this cage, and the cage is funky. It's no comfortable place in it. It's just wire. And so I'm trying to get comfortable, and I'm crying and I'm whimpering and I don't like this. And before I know it, I hear the sound of an engine, and I hear him take off, or it feels like I'm taking off. Now I know what it was, but I didn't know then. And he's taking off, and he's got the radio on, and it's some country music or something funky. And we get to this house, I guess it was his house down by the river. And I hear the door open, and he grabbed me, and he pulled me out. Like there was no, I was used to Ella Mae. Ella Mae was soft and gentle. She was a sweetheart. I couldn't wait for her to come and get me. But she wasn't coming and get me now. It was this guy. He had rough hands and smelled, oh gosh, he smelled like crawfish. If you don't know what a crawfish is, they're good when they're fresh. When they're not fresh, they don't smell too good. So then he took me into his house. Now, there was no water bowl. There was no food. I was hungry. I was used to eating whenever I wanted to eat. There was nothing. So I was whimpering and I was crying, and he kept yelling at me to shut up. Yeah. And I was scared. I was really scared. And all of a sudden, he put me back in this cage, and I hear him walk out the door and slam it. And I'm just there by myself in this funky place. All by myself at 10 weeks old. And I don't know how much time it was, but it seemed like a long time. It seemed like, hours, And the door opens up, and I'm whining and crying because I'm hungry. I'm really hungry. I'm really missing that warm place with my siblings and the beautiful nipple that I had. And he grabbed me, put me under his arm, took me out to the truck, and drove off. And here we are. I don't know what's happening. So it took about, I'd say, well, now I think I could say about an hour or something like that. About an hour. I'm in that thing. And I'm whining the whole time. So finally, he stops. I hear he stops. He pull up. He stops someplace. I don't know where I am or what I'm doing. And I hear the door open on his side, and then he come around, open the door on my side. He opened up the cage, put this rope around my neck. Now remember, I'm only 10 weeks old. Imagine yourself at 10 weeks old. Put a rope around my neck, grabbed me, put me out underneath his lamppost, and tied me up to it, and took off. And I'm sitting there by myself underneath this lamppost, and there's people on the street, and they're coming up, oh, look at this little guy, you know, they touching me and stuff. I'm scared to death. I don't know what's going on. But no one stopped. Nobody really gave me any attention. I'm just sitting there whimpering, and they got more and more people. Got really crowded. A lot of noise and crazy stuff going on the street. Turns out it was a corner in a Bourbon Street and Canal. That is where a place was that I was going to learn to love. A place that I was going to grow up in. So I fell asleep after hours. And I woke up in the morning, the sun was just coming up, still tied to the lamppost. And all of a sudden, I see this big bull mastiff come walking around the corner, right up to me. Say, hey, little fella, what's going on with you? And I don't know. He's talking to me, but I don't know anything. I'm only 10 weeks old. So he says, hey, little fella, what's on? I see you tied up here. Where's your owner? Well, he told me, anybody that tie a young guy like you up, I ain't waiting for him to come back. I'm gonna untie you, rescue you, and you follow me. So he untied me. And he was down going over to pick up a paper for Jumpin' Jack. Jumpin' Jack was the owner of this big place right on the corner of Bourbon Street and Canal. And turns out it was a blues club. I'll tell you about that later, but it was really something. Anyway, so Jack come around, he untied me, and he said, he's walking. He said, follow me, follow me. I didn't understand follow me, but I sort of got it after a while. I follow him, and I'm right behind him, and this big old bull mastiff, he farted right in my face. And that freaked me out. What the heck is that? I never had that. My siblings never did anything like that. That's a first experience. Imagine yourself, a first experience. That's what you experience, someone as big as Jack. Anyway, he turned around, looked, he started laughing. He says, oh, you're going to get used to that. And then I didn't know what he was saying, but I could tell it was friendly. So I started saying, oh, it don't smell that bad, really. I think maybe I'm going to like this. So anyway, I follow him, and he'd take me around the back of this club, this blues club called Jumpin' Jack's Blues Club, or blues joint, I guess, something like that. And so we go around the back, and there's food, fresh food put out. And it turns out there's a bunch of Cajun food. And Jack said, you could have some of this, little boy. You didn't have anything to eat. I was hungry. At this point, I was really hungry. So I ate, and he ate, and he started talking to me, and I met Jumpin', who was the owner of the club, and he was Jack's people. He was the guy that taught Jack how to speak people. Speaking peoples is not easy for a dog because we don't got the lips. But after a while, I started getting it, and so Jack became my savior. But more than that, my best friend, my very best friend. And that's how I got started. That was the beginning of me. And I got started learning peoples. And Jack helped me, and Jumpin' helped me. And so what happened is that the dog pack would start coming around, different dogs. At first it was just Jack and me. But then, the next dog that showed up was a boho. right? Boho was a dog. I learned later that he was a gypsy dog, a gypsy street dog, which means he's smart. He know how to pickpocket people. He could take your watch off your hand and you don't even know it. And so anyway, Boho. I like Boho. You like Boho?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I like Boho.
So anyway, that's the story of how I got started. That's the backstory. And so hopefully this will get you to appreciate how far a dog can go from starting from nothing to being leader of the dog pack.